Here is the latest version of the printer app after last night's disaster with the not actually printing everything. When I clicked on one of these buttons, we're going to have some of the same thing today, like this one here. Let's clear the cart. The way the printer buttons work is that it looks at the order and it's going to compile everything into a size and surface sort of batch. So everything that's a luster 8x10, I can print by clicking on this one button. Doesn't matter what the quantities they are that they ordered. It's just going to find them all and print them up to a certain batch size here. And the thing that's not going to work is this. I don't think I have very many glossy sizes set up. We basically only do glossy 8x10. So if I add this in, and again, this information is coming from the folder name. So it's possible folder names could come in that I don't have configured as products. And then that's just something we're going to have to worry about later. But right now, I already know this 5x7 glossy. I don't have set up, so I get an error saying there's no paper size found for glossy 5x7. So we'll clear that. If I do the glossy, I'm pretty sure that one works. There you go. So that printed that. And you can go down here. Not sure if you can add two different sizes to the same cart. You can, it looks like. But the way this is working on the Noritsu with the hot folder text file, you would have to have both of these sizes loaded in the machine at the same time, or else it's going to beep and tell you to load one of them. So generally we don't do that. So I think our workflow would be something like this. You just go down and print them each time. Actually, there might be an easier way to do that later on as I get further along. And then for this batch number, here will be the example of it. Back to one of the orders, has 488 images in it. And you got some little metadata over here telling you in this order, the total number ordered for this size, a luster 8x10, is 488. So far printed is 0, and it still needs 488. This batch, when I click on this, it's going to add unprinted things up until it gets to 270. You could do other sizes. This is sort of a packaging thing, you know, based on what the packaging is. For what you do for a different size, you could change the batch to match this. I don't know how I'm going to manage this in the long run. It might be tied to a product, or maybe there'll be a user configuration, or maybe you could just type in the number in here. I kind of want it to be something specific. For us, 270 8x10s is what we want. That fits in a box that we have, and this is a good number. So when I click on this, it's going to add 270. So if I scroll down somewhere towards the middle, right, you can see the blue ones are added in the cart, the white ones aren't. Up here it says 8x10, 270 prints. When I click on print, it's going to print just those, and then you'll see this update to say that the still needs is going to be 488 minus 270, 218, I think. And then printed will say 270. Total order will still be the same. And then the next time you print the button, click the button, it's going to try and print the rest. So there, it's done printing. And now to complete this order, I can just do that. And all right, so I'm scrolled down the screen. Let's clear this out. The printed ones go to the bottom. So that was a little weird that they looked like they were at the top, but that's because they have the scroll bar there. Here are the ones that are unprinted. I could still print some manually, but why would you want to do that? But if you watch the numbers, it'll work. It's saying printed is 270, needs 218. Printed those three, now it's printed as 273. Now if I click this, add them into the cart, and now the whole order will be printed. Check our logging. After last night's debacle trying to show stuff, I've made a couple of improvements. It actually prints faster. Yesterday, when I printed the whole batch of 488, it took 1.5 minutes. Now, before I added this batch, or if I increase the batch, right, it won't let me change this because it's disabled because the order's printed. This morning, we did a few things. Last night we fixed the problem with the history not being updated. That was in this Noritsu file. If I come down here, right, update history. We now do them in batches, so instead of sending the API individual requests all at once for however many things you put in the printer, for however many things you printed all at once, now they're getting batched into sets of 50, and then you loop through each set of 50 and send those, and that sort of manages the amount of work that the API is doing. There also ends up being another similar thing that we're doing here when we actually re-render the files. So there's a couple different ways you could print to Enritsu. One involves a little bit of sharpening and a color profile, and then eventually we'll have color adjustments. If you want to do any of those things, we have to re-render the file. That uses a module called Sharp that's very fast. Yesterday we were just doing them one at a time. Now we have a chunk size, should probably be called batch size. And you can change the number in here, and instead of, it's sort of like a multi-threading thing. Instead of sending one file at a time to Sharp and waiting for it to come back and then going on to the next one, now we can send 3 at a time as they end up being processed at the same time, and so you get a better throughput. So here I have some notes. It wasn't exactly dramatically faster, and even when I set it to 1, it was still faster than the minute and a half I was getting last night. I think something else changed that made it work better, but it couldn't really have been this history down there. But anyways, it does work a little bit better. It's a little faster, which is handy. Let's see. And now it says order complete here on the top of this little order details pane here. So other ones won't say that unless they're complete. Right, and if they are complete, somebody should probably be checking the archive box, and then they show up as green over here to let you know it's complete. All right, back down here to where some of these have been printed, but others doesn't say complete now. What else? Did we do anything else? I think that's it, but I really like this, the way the batch order works with a setting over here. That you can sort of configure. If I change this to 250 and then go to a different order, I believe it would stay at 250. It's sort of a state thing that as long as the app is open, it's going to remember that. I'm not sure what I want to do about that. Kind of seems like you'd want to have the size batch, the batch number configured by size, and then be able to override it. But then if you click on a different order, have it reset. I can see how you could get in trouble changing it one time and then you try to do the next order and you get the wrong number. But so it goes. We'll see about that. I'm not sure how to do that. I think the next thing to do is that I probably need to have the products and catalogs in a database so I can add to them. Right now, I think it's just a config file. Right, so only earlier when it gave the error in glossy 5x7 is because that's the only glossy thing that's in there. This probably needs to be all in the database. And I've also played around with the concept of having an alternate. So I already have this ready to go. If you ordered a 5x7, you might not have 5-inch paper loaded in the machine, and if the order's just for one print, it's kind of a pain just to swap out magazines to do one 5x7. So there could be the concept of an alternate, and then up here where the buttons are, there'd be a separate button for the alternate sizes. So maybe you want to do a 5x7 on 6-inch or a 5x7 on 10-inch. There'd be a couple of different buttons there that you could click, and then instead of getting a straight 5x7 that wouldn't work with the paper you have loaded, you could get something with a little offset so that it would work. I kind of think I have that in here. Alternate, right, virtual paper width would be an attribute, so you could say that the paper width here is 5-inch, but you want to do a 4x6 that's 152 millimeters in length, and then the virtual paper width is 4 inches, 102. So I probably need to replace this with a table in the database and then have a form where you can add stuff in. I'm still thinking through how that's going to work, because that might also work with the batch quantity, which kind of is where that should be, because I am a little worried about having it remember the batch quantity if you change it to something else. That I see how that could be a problem. But pretty cool. I'm pretty happy today, even after last night. We did find some other bugs last night and fixed them as part of the same issue that it was having, where it wasn't reflecting the history when you printed them.